What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It's your boy MM2KF, PNTS Network, and Hard Knock Digital Culture back again with another episode of Mic Check. And man, do we have a special mic check for you today? I sent out, I believe I sent, did I retweet this? Yes, I did retweet this. So people should be filling in for those that were watching the main show. Here's what we got in store for you today. We're not talking about Xbox versus PlayStation today. We're beating that drum. We're gonna beat that drum as long as we need to. Like I said, nobody's going to, due to their own set of favoritism or anything like that, try to get us to steer course. Gamers have been caught up in that cycle of perpetual state of wait because of Xbox. We also need someone to keep PlayStation sharp because it ain't like they're perfect. You know what I mean? Like, this is all for the sake of genre defining gaming. That's what this platform is about. That's what we continue to battle over and talk about and discuss here on this platform. Today we got something else on the periphery that's just as dangerous as the events, concerning the competition between Microsoft and PlayStation. This is developer crunch. What is developer crunch? Developer crunch is when a developer who's understandably been bogged down and weighed down by the norms of the financial exercise of putting out a game, trying to get it funded, it going out to market, and then trying to see how things go for your studio. A lot of that is based upon publishers who are funding a lot of these projects. And we're talking at a AAA level. Most of these projects at a AAA level have some big publisher that will get you the funding. And because they are giving you the funding, you now are at their beck and call as far as release, who owns the IP. Like, you may have come up with the idea, but in order for them to fund it, this has to be an IP that belongs to them. A whole bunch of stuff there's a whole bunch of stuff, understandably so, that's going on that is not favorable to the average gamer. And in lieu of that, gamers have been put in a bad situation if they want to get AAA games shipped to their desire. They either are absorbed into these bigger companies so they can keep their lights running, or they give everything but the skin off their backs, off their bones, in order to get these games to go through. And then, there's these unbelievable periods of crunch and cutbacks on time allowed to finish the project, lack of understanding, just so much that developers are put through. So because of that, but the fact that there has to be AAA games put out there, gamers and developers have just succumbed to the guardrails, to the shock fence that has been established by publishers. Then comes along Larian Studios, who says, you know what, we're going to do it differently. We're a fairly large size studio, I think 400 people. And no, we're not going to work hand in hand with a publisher and go through the traditional methods. We're going to obtain funding that we need via, hey, look, here goes our pedigree. You know what we do. Here's what we want to work on. and because it's a successful franchise, where a particular cadence isn't needed from the property holder, from the IP holder. The IP holder just wants it done the right way, right? They're like, sure, we'll help fund this because we would love our IP to be put in the game format that can be very successful and lucrative for us, as well, and help give a lot of exposure to our property. But they don't just stop there. They then say, look, man, we really want to ensure that we are going to put something out there that is going to be successful and that people are going to like. It's not just our hopes and our desire and we squiggle our nose and cross our fingers and clap our heels. No, we really want to put an effort to ensure that this is something that people will like. It will hit our target demo and some. So we're going to create a slither of this through the funding that we've got, and then we're going to put it out in early access. And it's going to be a paid for early access, but we're going to give you a very polished, it was polished as an early access can be, but a good looking, polished, extremely fun. We're going to give you just a slice of this game, a significant slice, one that, as long as you understand that, this ain't going to be perfect, but one that you will enjoy, you will help us rework this over and over again until we get it right. And once we get it right, we're going to apply what we've learned from you and you helping to fund this by paying for the early access to more of the game. And that's way one we're going to pay for it. Way two that we're going to pay for this. Way three is we will go to a platform or so and say, look, our pedigree, what we normally do when we do this process. We would like to work on an exclusive deal with you, not for the retail game, but for the early access. Sure, this would be, your early access is a big enough deal alone to where, people are going to froth at the mouth over this, and this could be good for us. Hell yeah. So they get additional funding. So they have three very adequate funding sources. Property owner, IP owner, gamers themselves, additional exclusive early access platforms, and then they go work on the game in totality. And not only do they have their money, but again, through the gamers, they now have the best guardrails that you can have. Because ultimate success in the final retail product is going to be encompassing of if the gamers are going to like this or not. So, of course, let's have the gamers decide on whether this is a good enough product routinely. We're going to take their lead. Well, we're going to take their lead on on issues and things that we know we need to address before launch. So you got funding, you got coaching from the desired demo, and you have your talents. And as a result, you now have a game with a 97 Metacritic score, which means pretty much, it's damn well perfect game. Only three for an aggregate score that has various reviewers. That is superb. And that pretty much says that you have created something stellar. And what's going to end up happening is Now your name is going to be etched and carved into the names of those, into the walls of those of the most prestigious. So gamers are like, wow, this is great. We're happy that Larian has done this. Everybody talked about the bubble, but good games will come, right? But before the seed of celebration can even warm up, in comes various devs, various developers who, even prior to launch of the game, wanted to make sure that you understood that what Larian is doing, as great as it may be, don't expect it from us. We have these restraints of the publishers, like I talked about, and we have these certain things that are going on the periphery that prohibit us from being able to provide that to you today as well. So don't expect it from us, because there's just too much going on. Like I said, the seat of the celebration is not even warmed up, and they're already coming with this. So Destin Legarie comes out and he says, hold on, wait a minute. We've had the bubble to deal with, and we've had a string of failing attempts and a watering down of AAA games that has dismayed many happening in the gaming world. We finally get something that gives us hope. And instead of celebrating that from one of your colleagues that makes gamers re-aspire towards gaming and the belief that everything doesn't have to be cookie cutter, that you guys do have talent. You don't necessarily have to do exactly what they're doing, but you guys do have talent, and you know, there can be sources of inspiration that you guys can draw towards, but you may not absolutely replicate, especially not today, because we get it. Instead of that happening, you guys want to come out here and pour sour milk all over the celebration already, right before it really gets started. And that's the defeatist attitude Destin is suggesting. And it's not boding well, because here's you guys' litany of failures recently. Failures in quality. So we get it that you may not be able to 1v1 replicate this on a daily. We get that. But why are you going out of your way, it appears, to damper to damper the hype and the excitement of gamers of getting a good product? We know that you can't do that. Everybody can. Like when God of War comes out, we know everything isn't God of War. When BioShock came out, we know everything isn't BioShock. But people aspire towards it the best way that they can. It changes the industry in a positive way towards quality. And it's better for everybody, right? Or no? It sounds like these devs are celebrating this lackluster monotony that is starting to slowly overcreep gaming. And that's how you come off when, as the celebration is heating up, you already want to stamp it out. I mean, gamers weren't saying, yeah, Baldur's Gate is a testament of what we expect every gamer to do. You preemptively came out here and made this an issue where a lot of gamers like, well, hold on, we weren't even saying that. But why are you so knee-jerk to defend mediocrity? And Destin's video, many felt, addressed the tone. It was the problem with the tone. Yeah, we can point to, look, we're not buying your excuses. You could point to some of that was in the video. But it was just an extension of the tone. Like, if we want to be technical here, let's break it down. Larian isn't a 40,000 employee staff studio. They have 400. This studio has more and more resources. This studio has more and more. This studio has more and more resources. The only difference that I see, where there may be some talent gaps, but it's structure and development. And we will concede with you. Maybe the structure and your development that isn't all your fault is the problem. And maybe the publisher has to realize that if they want to see the reap the rewards that, oh my God, that Baldur's Gate is going to reap, they're going to have to change some of that structure. We're not directly coming to you and saying you got to do better. But something structurally may have to change. But we haven't even done that yet. We're still celebrating Baldur's Gate. What is the problem? I think Destin's video was addressing that tone. And people were celebrating it. Except, of course, the devs. Who, of course, changed the goalpost and said, well, you're not really addressing what the devs were concerned about. You're not addressing why the devs said they couldn't do this and all this other stuff. And this is poor journalism. It was a way to extract some type of guilt trip out of people being excited and having their excitement preemptively doused on, unprompted. It was unprompted. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do three things. Well, four things. Let's play Destin's video again. We've played it before. Let's play it again. Great video. It's 9 minutes, but you got to hear the entirety. Then we're going to read this rebuttal to Destin's video, which is called Yelling is Not Journalism by Brandon Sheffield. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to do an episode of The Capsule. That's where I look at, this is where we create the quick snippet video of the latest topic. You'll get a summarized version of it. I'm going to, cut it for the purposes of putting it on our YouTube channel, MM2K Gaming on YouTube, for playing later. And then the fourth thing we're going to do is we're going to come in and chop this all up and get your thoughts on this. So let me first start with Destin Legarie talking about Baldur's Gate. Let's go there. Hold on. All right, so let's ensure. I hope you guys can hear them. All right, so let's do this, and let's do this right now.
Baldur's Gate 3 is taking the internet by storm. At its peak, a whopping 800,000 plus concurrent players were playing this weekend, catapulting it to the number 8 most played of all time spot. The gaming community has sung its praises, and it's incredibly refreshing to play a feature-complete game of this caliber on day one. But AAA game developers want you to know that this is rockstar level nonsense for scope, that it's foolhardy to set expectations higher, and Baldur's Gate 3 should not be used as a raised standard to RPGs going forward. Why was the first response to defend the current state of AAA gaming as opposed to saying, hey, maybe we can learn a thing or two from Baldur's Gate 3 and make our game better for our customers? This all kicked off way back on July 8th, a lifetime ago by internet standards, I know, when a writer and BAFTA nominee, Xavier Nelson, took to Twitter to express concerns about Baldur's Gate 3, namely that fans would use Baldur's Gate 3 to apply criticism or a raised standard to RPGs going forward. My rebuttal is, why shouldn't customers have raised standards? Taking it a step further, why shouldn't some AAA developers raise their own standards? Are we really going to pretend that consumers shouldn't be a little upset right now and hoping for an improvement in the industry going forward? Rockstar just announced a $50 conversion of the original Red Dead Redemption for the PlayStation 4 and Switch that has no mention of a 4K update, no mention of 60 FPS, and no mention of multiplayer support. The game came out 13 years ago, and the Xbox port does everything they're offering and then some for free with your 360 copy. Go buy a brand new copy of the Game of the Year edition on Amazon right now for $30 and you're good to go. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, when released on PC, had furious fans citing numerous problems getting the game to run, frequent crashes, and similar problems on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox. EA apologized and is still working to fix the issues. Destiny 2 just released a State of the Game blog saying, amongst other things, that they don't have the resources to release new ritual armor every season. But that same studio manages to create new armor sets in the shop for up to $20 a pop without fail every season. Diablo 4 unabashedly has several character skins priced at $20 each and just released their first season that had a patch that was so poorly thought out that the developers had to have an emergency live stream to apologize and have since begun working to revert those changes.
We don't plan on doing a patch like this ever again.
Okay, you need a more comparable RPG example of why fans are heralding Baldur's Gate 3 as a breath of fresh air? Look no further than Mass Effect Andromeda, which was widely panned.
Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything.
Or Cyberpunk 2077 that made promises about last-gen game consoles that it couldn't keep. It took CDPR almost a year to get that all sorted out. I'll make this as clear as possible to contextualize how fans are feeling. It feels like money has become more important than the core experience for fans. That's why Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, and even The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom are being widely celebrated. So what is up with the excuses? A game came along that is amazing, is selling well, is being praised by developers and fans alike, and the response is, well, we can't do that. Well, sweet. If that doesn't get me hyped for Mass Effect 4, I don't know what will. Xavier's tweet was well-intentioned, and he went on to add a lot of important context, but I think it misses the perspective of the consumer. We don't know anything about game design or how hard it is. We just know that Destiny is deleting hundreds of dollars worth of expansions when they feel like it, that Diablo is constantly reminding us to buy skins in their store, and most PC ports have been abysmal lately. Remember, that tweet was made nearly a month before Baldur's Gate 3 blew up, and it was still contentious with fans speaking up about their frustrations and developers chiming in to say what felt like game development is hard, you don't get it, be quiet. Baldur's Gate 3 is a game from a large, passionate studio that refuses to add microtransactions, gave players early access so they could address any problems that arose before launch, and is taking Steam charts by storm. So why should fans not use that as a gold standard of how to do it right? And why would a AAA studio not look at it and say, hey, maybe cramming microtransactions into our game isn't a good look? When Mass Effect 4 comes out, I don't want to see a $20 Liara skin, and I hope that its performance is tested across all platforms before release. Am I in the wrong for not wanting microtransactions and a stable video game at launch? Credit where credit's due now. There have been some really good examples of AAA games like the Dead Space remake and the Resident Evil 4 remake come to mind, both of which have been massive successes for EA and Capcom. Vampire Survivors came along and took the internet by storm last year. Do I need to bring up Elden Ring again? But that tweet blew up in the development sphere, and frankly, the pushback is just ridiculous. Developers should be looking at what Baldur's Gate 3 did and trying to replicate where they can, not jumping up to defend games that are cramming in practices that fans are getting fed up with. And make no mistake about it, these decisions impact game design. Many games are utilizing battle passes and player engagement as a metric of success. For a player, that means more grindy missions. That means more reminders to stop in the shop. It means a boring grind because keeping players engaged is a key metric. Many of the people who came out to talk about why Baldur's Gate 3 shouldn't be the new standard have since walked back those statements, and I'm glad, because if the industry can't take a good hard look at what's going wrong, why fans reacted the way they did to Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3, and then make impactful changes, we're screwed. Also, people seem to be using the fact that Larian is a big studio against them, the fact that they had a long development cycle against them. Really? Blizzard is also a huge studio with over 8,500 employees across several offices. They credited every employee at Blizzard in the release of Diablo 4. Bungie is a huge studio with over 1,552 employees across several offices. BioWare is a huge studio with over 500 employees across several offices. And Larian is also a large studio with over 400 employees across several offices. All of them have established beloved IPs with a ton of lore to pull from. All of them have a lot of money to make video games. And all of them had a long time to make anything they wanted to make. To say Baldur's Gate 3 is successful because it's aligned with Dungeons and Dragons is insanity. You think 800,000 Steam players are playing a game called Baldur's Gate 3 because of Dungeons and Dragons? No, it's clearly gone far beyond that audience. I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't know this game had anything to do with Dungeons and Dragons. And you know why I'm playing it? Because I like good games with a heavy focus on storytelling and bears. But anyway, it wasn't all doom and gloom from the development side. Thank you, Juno Bleeze, formerly of Riot, for jumping in and echoing exactly what I'm saying here. Her quote tweet reads, "I can't disagree with this one more. Whenever a game disrupts the industry and delights players beyond expectations, it absolutely raises industry and genre standards regardless of why and how. We should look at the Larian success story and ask ourselves, how are we going to make our games better and create the next games that shake up the industry? Players should and must always expect more from us, never less. Thank you. I implore AAA devs to look at these games that are being celebrated and look at your pipeline to see why the consumer is getting frustrated about the experience I outline in this video. And obviously try and make an improvement, because telling me how hard it is when you're breaking profit and revenue records isn't a super compelling argument from the customer's perspective. Is Baldur's Gate 3 an outlier? Yes, but I for one wish it could become the standard, and being told to shut up because I don't know game design doesn't feel super constructive. But hey, I'm just some idiot on the internet who doesn't know anything about game design. I guess I'll just go buy my horse armor and call it a day. Enjoy your $20 on top of your $100 for the collector's edition on top of your $15 for the battle pass. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, because I get why you're frustrated, and it's really frustrating to see people not saying, hey, maybe we could learn a thing or two from Larian. I'm enduring Baldur's Gate 3, and I hope game development continues to grow from where it is today. I hope you do too. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more on all things gaming, keep it right here on IGN. Baldur's Gate 3 is...
Okay. I adore that video. I get where Cold Blood and many may say, screw this dude, because he does this. This. I give credit where credit is due, because, like I said, and I said this in the comments. Hold on one second, if I can find my comment. I said I give credit where credit is due to help influence them to do the thing, giving them the global praise. He's already said he's working on a part 2. Rather that than his typical stuff. You know what I mean? So instead of having that typical, let's find a way to defend Xbox type stuff, I'd rather him do this. I think this is where he's better suited, where he's trying to relate to the expectations of gamers, opposed to trying to factually break down stuff, because sometimes he misses a lot of key facts. And I think that what the response to Destin, who I think was spot on into what some of the publishers were trying to do. Here, let me do this real quick, because he named somebody. It was Juno Breeze, I think it was. Was that the name? Juno Breeze? Yeah, here it goes. Juno Bleeze. I gotta follow her. Let me find her on Twitter right now. Well, let me do this first. I want to find her on Twitter. I gotta follow her. Let me see, Twitter. I'm gonna follow her on both accounts, because I have a Hard Knock Digital Culture MM2K account, and then I have a just my basic. So what is her name? Juno Bleeze at Juno, please. There she goes. Oh. Yes, there you go. We're gonna follow you. Oh man, yes. Let's see. Juno, please. Let's go here. At Juno. At Juno, please. There she goes. And I'm going to find her comment. Follow her. And I'm going to find this comment that she made. Replies. Let me see if we can find her. Let me see. Wow. It's very hard to find people that get it. So when you find them on the internet, cherish them and follow them, please. Oh, I love this. Okay. And I'm going to bookmark this here. Copy. Let me see. Bookmark that. Let me go to here. Come on. Let's go to. Hold on. MM2. There we go. We'll do that. Bear with me. I'm sorry, guys. I just gotta. Okay, there we go. Oh man, I love this. Okay, and then we're gonna bookmark it. Yeah, she has a hot take that I think is excellent. I'll get into her hot take later. Just want to make sure I got it up there. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to read you the rebuttal. This guy named Brandon Sheffield, who is rebutting what Destin said. And it's titled, here it goes, right here. Let me get back here, make sure I can see you guys' comments. Hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo. You're back, you're back, you're back. Good to see you, good brother. One times comments. Hot take. Part of BG3's success is down to the wonderful people at Google, Stadia, and all its Stadia players. Big up yourself. Yeah, that funding. Yeah, that early access funding from Google was key. But that was smart of Larry to do that. And that's, to Destin's point, there are some things that I feel like Destin could clarify for sake of courtesy, but his overall arching point is not debunked, and I'll show you why. He says, "Nah, Stadia made this game for most people unattractive." now, Stadia. Stadia, what was that? Wolfheart? Stadia, oh God, golly. Baldur's Gate 3 exposed Stadia to a lot of high-end streamers. Wolfheart, who's a huge streamer, he was streaming this all the time on Stadia. Wolfheart FPS was streaming this all the time on Stadia because Stadia's low resources and the game still look great on Stadia. So shout out to Larian and Baldur's Gate. Now, did it attract the people that Stadia hoped that it would attract? No, it didn't, because I think it did well. It did okay on the platform, but they wanted a bigger piece of that 1 million that jumped on it, and most of that 1 million was PC. But that's a Google thing, not a state. It's a Google not utilize its marketing not being strong enough. Look at the powerhouse that Baldur's Gate is. Even in early access, it had 1 million sales the first 3 days. The early access did. A huger chunk of that could have been on Stadia, for the simple fact that if you didn't have a high power PC and you were just a console gamer, you could have played Baldur's Gate via a browser, via Stadia, even if you didn't play anything else. You're gonna just play it via browser. Because be part of the free plan, not pay for Stadia, just buy the game. Google was at fault for that. That being said, let's get back and let's look at the rebuttal. Yelling is not journalism. And you guys let me know, is the audio okay? Let me know everything is all right. I'm rebooting to make sure. Okay. No, not GeForce Now. Stadia is more metamorphosis. Not GeForce, no, but Stadia did, or Baldur's Gate did a lot for Stadia. It could have done more if Google would have been smarter. Not the Stadia people. They run the resource. If the Google people, the CEO and those folks, they would have approached us better. All right. So yelling is not journalism. This is from Brandon Sheffield. He's of, I forgot the developer, Necrosoft, I think it is. He says, IGN just released a video called Baldur's Gate 3. It's causing some developers to panic. You can watch it here if you haven't. The video's gotten a lot of game developers upset and has gotten a lot of gamers up in arms. The crux of the video is a negative reaction to a series of tweets by Xaliver Nelson Jr. talking about how Baldur's Gate 3 isn't a reasonable bar for most RPGs going forward. It's not just about it's not about Mr. Nelson. I can't pronounce his name. It's not about Mr. Nelson's tweet. It was about his tweet saying that and then not setting off a litany of responses from other developers pretty much saying, yeah, we know you're celebrating the potential of Baldur's Gate 3, but while you're celebrating that, let's throw some sour milk on it. Don't expect that from us because, Baldur's Gate 3 is just, we're not talking about aspiring anything or learning anything from this or trying to trying to take anything from its influence. It's not influencing anything. Just be happy with the status quo. That was the tone that was set. Now, Mr. Nelson's tweet may have started that, but it wasn't just a barrage of his tweets, or wasn't just a slamming of his tweets. As a matter of fact, Destin went out of his way to say that Mr. Nelson's tweets were well intended. He was talking about the influx of, yeah, Nelson, you're right, yeah. Be happy with the status quo. Just deal with it. No, that is not the reasonable response to something like this. Great game. It's going to be hard to duplicate. Larian had some special sauce going on. We as developers always aspire to try to work towards when the bar is raised. However, there's many variables into their success and into why you haven't seen it until then. But we welcome the discussion. Here's the problem that this shows. That what Brandon's article wants to do is they want you to whine and cry with the developer. Why can't they? We understand why the devs can't do this. It's the publishers that's hamstring them. But what this speaks to is just the naivete of the development world that they're accepting this. I get that they got to keep their lights on, but this current regime of developers, they're like, this is just the way that it is. Deal with it. The mediocrity. Instead of saying, you know what, there are complexities here, but we welcome the discussion. And congratulations, Larian. That should have been it. There are complexities on why you may not see this more often, but we're happy to see Larian do this. We're happy to see how they've done it. We're happy to see where we can implement what they can and talk about what we can't. But we welcome the bigger discussion. Because what that says is, even though there is a foot on our neck now, you, the consumer, can change that. That is always the case. If there does not need to be an education, Mr. Sheffield, on the low bars that have been set on developers who want to do more, but they're being hamstrung by publishers. We don't need an education. I'll put it like this, for lack of a better example. We don't need an education on why the slaves are being whipped. We need to understand how we can emancipate them, how we can free them, right? We don't blame them for the situation that they're in because it's being imposed by the publisher. We don't need education on that because we don't want to supplement that. Regardless of what's going on in the whys, something has to change. That's the point. And really, this is an exercise in nothingism. But I'll continue to read it because it's the opposing point of view. So again, this is the crux of the video, is a negative reaction to a series of tweets by Mr. Nelson Jr. about how Baldur's Gate 3 isn't a reasonable bar for most RPGs going forward. I decided to comment on this as a former journalist myself after a few people told me the video raises a good point. I will first say that no point is raised in this video. That's baloney. The point that is raised is the reaction from developers struck a very peculiarly disappointing tone upon the celebration of a great game. And it was unprompted. But if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. The output is crappy. It's crappy. Let me show you guys something. I do want to show you guys something. Here, let's do this. Let's see if I can find. Let me find this tweet. This extenuates my point. I don't want TweetDeck. I want what? Twitter. This extenuates my point wholeheartedly. See if I can. Oh, here we go. All right. So, and I don't want to have too many browsers up, so I'm going to close this. So that's going to mess with the stream. Okay, so let's do this. So this is a tweet that we sent from the MM2K Hard Knock Digital Culture account. It was in response to this. So Xbox, this guy called Xbox Curator put this out there. Hold on, let me fix my chair. Give me a second. Xbox Curator says 2023 could very well go down as the greatest year for Xbox of all time. And he shows Starfield, Forza Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush, and Stalker 2. Granted, I don't deny that these are, this is a potential great set of games for an individual lineup. It's cool. Starfield could be a blockbuster. Forza, gets accolades with each iteration. Hi-Fi Rush got critical acclaim. Stalker 2 has potential, right? And I love the first Stalker game. So yeah, this could be a very potent lineup for an individual catalog, right? But let's not get too far into La La Land. I respond with nah, not by a mile. 2007 arguably is their best year ever. That's based off all of the following timed exclusive content on this list. Then there's what's not on the list: BioShock and Mass Effect. Let's take a look at Xbox 360 2007. You had Halo 3, which reasonably can buck with Starfield. You had Forza Motorsport 2, which, you could buck with Forza Horizon. I mean, I get a Forza Horizon is going to have better graphics or whatever, but what I'm saying is that something at that level, you know what I'm saying, as far as excitement, gamer excitement. Crackdown can reasonably buck with a couple of things. It can buck with Hi-Fi Rush, because even though Hi-Fi Rush had a lot of play, I think Crackdown did pretty well as well. It can buck with Stalker as far as, gamer anticipation. Tenchu Z was good. Legend of Kingo, Legend of Nine was okay. Beautiful Katamari. That's a AA game. That can be huge. Katamari games were huge. That could buck with Hi-Fi Rush. Project Sylphie, Dance Dance Revolution. You talk about music, rhythm-based games, Fusion Frenzy, Bullet Rich, Ace Combat, Wartech. Blue Dragon, that's another one that could deal with either Hi-Fi Rush or Stalker as far as complete saturation, and Project Gotham 4. So you had all these games, a lot of them high quality. There's various games that I can pin against what's coming out in 2013 and say, as far as gamer offering, I can find a match that would match that and some, and we could do that multiple times over per this list. But that's not all that released for 2007. We got BioShock, the game that changed everything. This is the game that made hybrid gaming, as far as, you have a skill tree, and then you can do, you could do elements and shoot. This is the game that made hybrid gaming a norm. This game changed everything. And as far as RPGs are concerned, Mass Effect changed everything. So just off of these two games alone, how pivotal and how they've changed gaming. Like, there is no Starfield without Mass Effect. Right? That's the first really big space exploration game. How those games changed gaming forever. Stop it. It doesn't compete. But here's the bigger picture here. It's not about downing what's coming out for 2023 on Xbox. It's about saying, look how much we used to get in quality. Look how much we used to get in 1 year. BioShock, Mass Effect, Halo 3, Forza, Crackdown. That was all to Blue Dragon. All to one beautiful Katamari. All to one platform. All to one platform alone. Look at everything we used to get in a year. That has changed. Why is that? Understandably so. It takes more to make AAA games. Understandably so. In addition to that, publishers have a more stringent hold and tighter grasp and more grueling oversight over these games than they did back then. Because these games have become more expensive to make. That's why they've done what they've done. I'm not saying I'm okay with it. I'm just acknowledging it. So because of that, we get the difficulties that developers have faced. But there's something wrong with the system. And something that bucks the system and sees success should be celebrated. Even if you got to equally or in part say, we're going to celebrate this with you, but understand there's something in the way that complicates this from being a norm now, but we're willing to have a discussion to express that in hopes that that changes. See, that final part that I just brought up, that's not brought up by the author here. That's not brought up by Mr. Sheffield. It's basically just there are things that are crippling this from being the norm. That's it. So when Mr. Sheffield says a point wasn't made, that's false. Your tone is defeatist, is what he's saying. And it's not just Mr. Sheffield, it's Judo. Miss Blees, who says, I can't disagree with this anymore, who's also a developer. Whenever a game disrupts the industry and delights players beyond expectations, it absolutely raises industry and genre standards regardless of why and how. I'm not saying that all games should all be judged. Of course, we got indie game developers talking about, we don't expect this from us. Of course not. Get out of here. What are you talking about? Why are you even here in the room? We're not talking about you. What's worrying and upsetting to me is seeing colleagues in AAA studios. Thank you, Juno. Thank you, Juno. Thank you. And AAA studios jump at the opportunity to agree with this sentiment. We should all look at Larian's success story and ask ourselves, how are we going to make our games better and create the next games that shake up the industry? Player should and must always expect more from us, never less. Spoken by a true optimist. Thank you. It's crazy. But we'll continue to read on. Says the video instead asks a rhetorical question that has been posed ad nauseum since the advent of DLC. Why can't AAA games come out with perfect polish from the... No, that's not it. That's not the point. The point is, why, upon us celebrating something that could potentially raise the bar, but it's just, it's a breath of fresh air, why is your first response to douse it out? Oh, yeah, we're happy that it's here. We're happy that fire's burning, but hey, look over there. Oops, fire's gone. All right, we can go back to the status quo. That's the tone of the development flurry to say, don't expect this from me. He says, if it were me and I worked as a journalist and I had a question and the question had been asked by players consistently, I would attempt to do some journalism to find the answer. No, the question isn't why aren't games getting better? We know why. The question is rather if there when are things going to change so games get better? And how can we change them? And Larian has possibly supplied the blueprint to that. Why are you ignoring that, Mr. Sheffield? Why? He says, why can't they do this if the same question has been floating out there for nearly 20 years? Clearly, this is not an easy answer if it has been around for such a long time. We know that it's not a simple fix. We know that the answers weren't simple. But we have breakthrough. Why, instead of already dousing out the possibility that change could be on the horizon, why are we making excuses for the whipping, for the slavery? Well, why are we doing that? Instead of celebrating the potential of the emancipation. Why are we doing that? Instead of talking to people and attempting to answer the question, Destin Legarie chooses to make a reaction video multiple times admitting that he doesn't know anything about the subject, but is simply angry. That is not what journalism should be. This wasn't a journalistic piece, a deep dive into the complication. It was an opportunity to shine a light and put a magnifying glass on the consumer angst, and it was reflecting the consumer angst. And if Mr. Nelson can go out there and just simply utter excuses on why it can't be done and why that should be accepted, then it's okay for Destin to isolate his response simply to shine a light on the consumer angst. Mr. Nelson didn't do an adequate job in highlighting in his diatribe. He did not highlight the need to satisfy the gamer and do more. He just went and you can argue ad nauseum at an attempt to make an excuse for the status quo. Using angry gamer language with no research has been done, as admitted by the videographer, along with naming a bunch of game devs and showing their tweets, invites angry fans to go harass them, which is of course what is happening. This reminds devs of 2014, and actually do we not like it. But back to the content of the of the video. Legarie asks why developers like Larry and Nintendo and From Software can release something so polished while others can't, but makes no effort to find the answer. So let's get into it. In ASRock, here's a big part of it. Games released in imperfect states because devs either run out of money or the shareholders of the parent company mandate that a game must come out in a certain window, which devs have no control. Who doesn't know that? We're arguing that the people asking this question listen to podcasts and stuff every day that discuss this. We talk about developer crunch and should it be accepted or not. I'm a big advocate against it because not as a game developer, but as someone who has developed software, I can understand how crunch can affect the brain. Development, you're sitting in front of a computer, you're trying to figure out code, you're trying to problem solve simultaneously. That can affect the brain and throw you off, throw your senses off. You're a zombie. And people don't understand that. So someone who's personally against developer crunch, we understand why. The gamer that heard that video and understand what's being talked about, already understands what developers are doing, happen to developers from publishers. They even understand it from the PlayStation and Xbox narrative. That's why we talk about what's going on with 343. People are abandoning 343 and all these other Xbox studios. You know what I'm saying? We already know this. Stop talking like we're stupid in defense of your colleagues. If you wanted to have a down the middle discussion, if you're talking about what someone should do, then do it, because you're not doing it. You're just reinforcing excuses. They run out of money trying to make the best game possible in the least amount of time. Devs really control their own budget, and they're trying to make as much cool stuff as they can with the time they're allotted. In short, for one reason or another, they're often forced to start selling the game in order to pay for the completion of the game. This has been done through DLC patches, early access, and yes, even microtransactions for ages because of rising expectations of AAA and because big studios are beholden to financial year results and reporting to their investors. Devs burn through their life force trying to make this happen, and it's upsetting to see this brought up with absolute incuriosity. How about these individual games then? Baldur's Gate 3, which he says launched in a polished state, actually launched in early access, which he mentions but doesn't question in any way. The game was in early access for 3 years, getting polished and bug fixes as it went. 3 years. Now, as someone who spent the majority of his video complaining about people selling unfinished products, why does this not upset him? They sold the game for 3 years at $60 while it was unpolished and unfinished. Anyone could buy it. The company was able to ship the final non-early access game in a more polished state because the game was sold for 3 years at full price in unfinished state. So the entire premise of our video here, the Baldur's Gate 3 launch perfectly polished, isn't even correct. No, you are totally wrong. You're trying to play semantics. I haven't even read this part yet, and it is totally repulsive. I don't even want to read the rest of this. Here's what Larian did, which now you're trying to attack Larian. You're disgusting. I'm done reading this trash. Turn this shit off. This is disgusting. You're an embarrassment to developers. I'll never buy anything. If anybody wants to hire you, you better not have a leadership role on any game that comes out, because if you do, I already know it's trash. This is disgusting. Now you're trying to flip the tables on Larian as if they did something wrong. No, here's what Larian did. They gave gamers an opportunity to know, look, you can get in on this early. This is incomplete. You're only getting, the first 5 acts or something. So they let gamers know that, look, we have a good vertical slice of this game that you can really get involved with. And if you want to pay the full price, you can do that. But understand, it's not the full game, but you're going to get in this early. You're going to be part of our testing early. You're going to be part of this development early. What Larian did is let gamers know that you can get in on this early and participate in a testing fashion, help us build it, help be part of the hot fix implementation and all that. You can do that for this price. So they gave gamers an option. They let them know what was wrong. They let them know that this thing wasn't finished. They let them know that this thing wasn't perfect up front. So they gave gamers a choice. Do you want to get into this thing now? And then if you get into this thing now, we're going to give you even more than you would get if you waited to spend the $60 later. We're going to even further reward you. Not only are you going to get to play the game now, not only are you going to be part of the early development, but we're going to give you even more later. Or you could just wait until the thing is totally complete. That is completely different from what you described. Where gamers are launching games, this game is complete, it's gone gold, it's retail launch for the entirety of not the entirety because it could be deals, but this is the retail version of the game that is supposed to be acceptable for all people, not people that just want to get on this early and be part of the development phase the best way they can as a gamer. This is the product. Here you go. Those are two totally different scenarios. And really the scenario that Larian put out there, if you're going to release an incomplete game, maybe what Destin is suggesting is you follow Larian's path. Let people know early. Let them know that they're getting a slice. Give them an opportunity, tell them the benefits of being in here early. Make sure that you polish that part up enough to where it is still an engrossing experience. However, if they pay full price for it now, let them know that when the thing is, ready to come out the oven for every gamer, that they're going to get more. So that you're pretty much just chronologically realigning your DLC and all that other stuff. But instead of you forcing people to pay $100 across the board, give these gamers an incentive to pay the $60 up front because you need that money now. But now what happens is because you got a large chunk of money up front early, you ain't got to gouge people and make excuses for what you put out there and try to gouge them and get $80 from people, Redfall, for an incomplete experience. I don't even want to read the rest of this. It's disgusting. And I feel bad for saying I respectfully disagree. I don't want to see nothing else from this guy ever again. Disgusting. Thank you that we have people like Juno. And I got to say, there are some people on the internet that I totally agree with a lot of their takes, and I saw them agreeing with this guy. Totally disgusting. Totally disgusting. I want nothing to do with whatever he's put out there. He's Cold Blood Sensei say, what is disgusting? What's disgusting is that he's hold on. Why isn't this? My chat isn't working. Cold Blood Sensei says, what is disgusting? What's disgusting to me is that this guy tries to say that Larian is doing the same thing. Okay, what he's trying to do is equate what Larian did to Redfall. Where Larian said up front, the difference between Larian and Redfall, or Larian or any other game. Let's say, look, for issues and giggles, let's say Forspoken, because a lot of people had issues with Forspoken's polish, right? To be fair, I mean, I didn't have any problems with it, but people had problems with Forspoken. So we're not pegging this to, you know what I'm saying? We're not pegging this to a platform. We can say Forspoken, or we can say The Last Jedi, what's that, Last Survivor, whatever that is. What they're saying is, what this person is saying is that what Larian did is the equivalent to them. It's not. What Jedi Survivor and Redfall and Forspoken, what they did is they said, look, this is the retail version of the game, which we're saying is adequate for everybody. This is a $70 game. We're going to charge you $70 for it. And this is the adequate version for everybody out of the box. Here you go. And then later, when you play it and you realize that it's not adequate because it's bug ridden or it's not smooth, we'll fix it. You know, give us more time to fix it. And then right after we fix it, here comes this DLC to try to rope you in some more. And they do things in that crummy state because of the foot that they have on their neck from the publishers. All that part of it is correct. The publisher expectations, shareholders, all that stuff is correct. But what Larian has done is completely opposite of that. Larian has said, look, we're going to be smarter about this. We do need funding up front. But what we're going to do is we're going to approach the people that are willing to get in on this experience early by giving them a decent chunk of the game, a playable chunk. It's going to have bugs and stuff in it, but it's going to be a suitable chunk of the game that it, you know, that adequately you could sell at, you know, $60 as long as you're adding in these caveats. You're going to be part of the development process, help us with hot fixes, be, you know, kind of be like our right-hand man and helping send reports and crashes and stuff like that. But if you don't think that's enough, then guess what? When the deluxe edition comes out, that's actually going to be $80, you're going to get that for free. You're going to get that. You're going to get the entire game. You're going to get the deluxe edition of the game for a reduced price when the game is ready for everybody. A lot of people will pay for early access. That's why early access, there's nothing wrong with early access, but you need to be honest with people. Larian is being honest. We're giving you early access of a game. These other developers and publishers aren't being honest. And I get it, a lot of the developers aren't being honest because of the foot they have on the neck from the publishers, but Larian has showed you a blueprint to where if you're honest and upfront and you change your business model, it might be more successful for you. That's not nothing for you to try to twist around and make it seem like, oh, they were dishonest. Those people in the former experiences are being dishonest. They're trying to sell you a game at full credit, at full value, and telling you that it's the full retail, the finished product. And it's not. They're not being honest. Larian is being honest. You don't have to buy it. You can wait until it's the finished product. Get the standard version for $60, get the deluxe version at $80, or you can invest up front, start playing up front, experiencing what's going on up front, and get the deluxe version for $60. I think that's just a smarter blueprint. And it's a smarter blueprint that, yes, we can see the developers can't do on their own, but if the consumer steps up and says, you know what, we want to see more of what Larian did. And we're not going to pay for unfinished games anymore. You know what's going to happen? Because publishers want to make money. What are they going to do? They're going to start doing what Larian's doing. And guess what that does? That allows the developers to the time in the game, like this game was in early access for 3 years, it allows them to put the time in the game that's needed without all that extra pressure, with least amount of crunch, right? They get fully funded, so you ain't got the publishers breathing down your neck. Look, man, we got to start turning over money on this. All we got is expenditure. We got to start getting some money on it. You're getting money on it already. You have a blueprint. So I understand under the current developer-publisher dynamic, that's not possible. But something's got to change. You got to change that dynamic. And we get that it's not going to happen overnight. That should be the discussion. Not trying to flip it upside down and paint with a broad brush and demonize what Larian is doing. It's disgusting. Repulsive. Let's go to the comments. Internet of Games says, future success is giving the kid in the schoolyard something to be proud of, to brag about. I was playing BG3 in early access to create a sense of belonging and cool. Yeah. And look, me, Cold Blood, and IOG can be in the room. And Larry can approach us and say, look, we got this game, Baldur's Gate 3, Dungeons and Dragons. We don't know if you're familiar with the IP. If you know our pedigree, Divinity, other games, you know what I'm saying? Here goes a playable demo of it. You know, let's give you some time with it. Would you be willing to pay $60 for this to be a critical part of the further development of this, to get access to the first 5 acts of this, and also to sweeten the deal, you're going to get the deluxe version at a $20 discount when the game is ready for everybody. Me and IOG can raise our hands and say, hell yeah, we're down with that. And Cold Blood can sit there and look at us and go, you mofos is crazy. I'm not paying $60 for early access. And he can walk away and both responses be fine. Why? Because we know what we're getting ourselves into. But that's different from when I go to buy Redfall, IOG goes to buy Redfall, Cold Blood goes to buy Redfall. We're all told this game is polished. They done marketing, brought people out, influencers out there. They're telling us that the game is fine and all this stuff, for us to find that the game is incomplete. That's 2 totally different scenarios. Sheffield, I can't even call him a liar. That would be an insult to liars. He's repulsive for doing that on the gaming front. Totally repulsive. And anybody that applauded what this guy had to say, maybe after hearing what I'm saying now, you re-examine what this guy was trying to do in the sake of developers. I'm all for developers. I'm not blaming developers here. And I don't think so much that Destin was trying to blame developers. I think he was trying to shine a light on the development world, which includes the publishers that make the decisions in the AAA space. I'm repulsed by this. Let's continue to go on. He said, Larian is anti-consumer. Deluxe edition is now Cold Blood is trolling. I paid for EA. I paid for EA if it on Stadia, then again on Steam. I loved it. Don't matter. It's still stuff am I missing unless I pay $10 more. And then Cold Blood, you don't have to buy it. But at least now you know you're getting a polished $60 experience, right? You ain't got, you don't have to buy all the other stuff. But if you paid your $60 up front, was part of early access, you would have got those $20. And they're not, and opposite of that extra $20 a deluxe edition, they're not going to beat you down with microtransactions. Bulls for Life says, I hear that, man. He says, If it got stuff you can't get through gameplay, then yes. I don't know. I don't know what's in there, to be honest with you. I mean, I can get it because I was part of the early access. But again, you know, I'm not totally against DLC. I'm on the fence of loot boxes. I'm not on I'm not one of those gamers because I know that gaming is expensive, and I know why some of the things were being done. Games are getting more expensive to make. I mean, it's not that the publishers are all being evil as well. They're not doing the best. They haven't designed the best model for the art, because gaming is expensive. The problem is that because the publishers have found a comfortable spot for them, they're like, okay, well, this is what we're sticking with. And the developers are just eating it up. Now, the old school developers, the ones that made the classics, the BioShocks and the Mass Effects, they're all gone. You know why they're all gone? Because they said, screw this. We're not going to go for this. This is horrible. And they did it in hopes that gamers would speak up, and we didn't speak up enough. Because we just didn't. But now we're speaking up because maybe we didn't speak up because we didn't know, well, what was the solution? We understood the problem, but we didn't know what the solution was going to be. Now we have a solution. And now gamers say, okay, now we know a better way. Really, I'm going to be honest with you. Before gamers even knew what they were getting out of Baldur's Gate, the developers already started belly aching. We can't do this. You ain't getting this from me. So we weren't even fully out of celebration mode before they started dousing out the fire. So really the developers created a self-inflicted wound because nobody was saying everybody has to do this. Really, and the sad thing about it is the majority of the developers that were complaining, not all, but the majority were indie devs. Indie devs aren't even part of this discussion. Of course you can't do this. Larry, there's a team of 500 people. What are you talking about? Why are you in a panic? I think the whole attempt is disgusting here. And I don't even want to read it. I'm done with it. I refuse to give that even any more airtime. I'm not even going to say his name again. All right, y'all, here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we are going to do a vertical slice. Speaking of vertical slices, we're going to do a vertical slice of this game. Of this podcast. We're going to do an episode of the Capsule. That's where we do a short video. And we talk about, the subject today. I was going to do a game stream, but I'm not going to have time for it. I don't think I have the energy. I'm upset now. I'm not going to front. I'm upset now. And this might take the oxygen out of the room for me for a couple days. Cause I don't like this. I don't like this. I really don't. The issue was the tone. We haven't even, y'all preemptively jumped in front of it. Oh, no, we ain't doing that. It reminds me of a time, and I hope my son doesn't mind me telling this story. My oldest son, I've talked about him. I used to have problems out of him. He's always been a great kid. He's just, he was just trying to find his way, and he just did the wrong stuff in order to try to find it. But he's a great kid, assistant manager at, I'm in a store at this public. He's doing great, man. It's a well-known brand. He's an assistant manager. It's a complete 180 of what he was doing as a teen. But I remember when he first started working, he was working at a grocery store at this time. And we used to have this thing called the Italian Festival up the street from our house where all these trucks serving Italian food would be there, serving different. And me and my wife, my whole family loved it. We would go up there every summer for the Italian festival, ransack all the trucks, and come back with our belly aching. You know what I'm saying? Having some of the best food that you could have. So he was going to work, and it was a festival that started like on a Thursday, and it ended on like a Tuesday the following week. And so he was going to work one day, and he was like, "Dad, I didn't have chance." Well, okay, so we had we had a joint banking account because he was still underage, and of course, I had access to his money, but I didn't touch it. But we had to have a joint account. I was the main person responsible for that account because I was the adult. So anyway, to make a long story short, he got paid, but he only had like $50 left. No. I'm lying. He had like, how much? He had like $20 left, but he wanted to go to this Italian festival. And so he was like, "Dad, I don't have enough time to pull this $20 out of my account. Can you give me $20? And he was like, "As a matter of fact, can you give me 50? And I'll give you your 20, and I'm gonna give you 10 when I come back. I mean, when I get paid, I think a couple of days I'll owe you 10 because he's like I owe somebody 30 for something." I'm like, "What are you doing owing somebody 30? Okay, whatever." And so I gave him the $50, and I was like, "Look, I need that $50. It was for something else. You got to give me back my 20. You know what I'm saying?" I was like, "You got to give me back my 40. He's like, "All right." Or no. I can't remember how it worked, but I gave him 50, and he was supposed to at least give me 20 or something like that. All right. So anyway, he goes to the Italian festival, and I was like, "I at least need my 20. And goes to work and comes back that day. I noticed in his account that he took out the 20, but he walks through my door and he says, "I ain't got your 20. And proceeded to walk up the steps. I was chill about it, was cool about it, and I let him do it. But little did he know that I check all my kids' stuff. This mug had cellular phones and all this expensive stuff that I guess he was buying off of people. That's why he was going through his money, and he was trying to resell it. He had a little hustle. I took all his cellular phones while he's such a hard sleeper, took it all out of his hiding spot and had it sitting next to me when he came down the steps in the morning to go to work again. And when he came down to work, I said, "Oh, you ain't got my money?" He was like, "No." I said, "Okay, well, I ain't got your phones sitting here." "Dad, what you doing? Oh, please give me my phone back." Oh. I said, "Get my money." And he came home with my money later on that day. You know what I'm saying? And the point of the story is that we totally get that there are things happening at the publisher front to where they're taking money, they're taking resources from developers, juking them on Metacritic pay, bonus. "Oh, we said the bonus was for a Metacritic of 90, not 89. Oh, you're not getting your bonus." Doing all types of stuff in studios and shutting down. We understand all that stuff is happening. But at the same time, you're not going to rob Peter, which is us, to pay Paul. We're not going to let you just stand there and take our 20s and say, "Look, this is you just got to deal with it. I ain't got your money." You know what I'm saying? "I ain't got your quality game." And and the status, and we just let it go. No. Something has to fundamentally change or we going to act up. And I think instead of trying to rebut the gamer's reaction to what IGN said, if you wanted to add clarity and say, "But in conclusion, We do understand why things need to change, and hopefully they will, and hopefully this influences change. Not a defense of the status quo. If you want to do that, that's fine. And you can add context. But you're not adding any context that is adding anything to the knowledge base of the gamer. The gamer already knows this. The status quo just is not acceptable. And you brought nothing to the table but for a bunch of people to sit there and hand wave and act like this is not a solvable problem. And then instead of embracing the blueprint that Larian possibly put out there, now you want to try to demonize, oh, this is the same thing. No, it's not. I'm glad we got people. That's why I followed her on both of my accounts. I'm glad we got people like Juno Bleeze. That speaks reason to some of this craziness. It's just pure bit crazy. Let me read some more comments and then we're going to do our slice of the capsule. He says, gamers are hangry everywhere. Maybe not Nintendo. I'm not sure about those dudes. They have the morphology, but they have us all fighting each other rather than the man. Exactly. And I think what Destin did is he was speaking to the development world, not necessarily, even though he said devs or whatever. I think he said devs because what he was saying in so many words is, why are you pushing back on this success? Like what you guys are doing over there, even though we understand the hard work and the pain you're going through, but what you guys are doing over there, despite that, just isn't good enough. Let me give you an example. You hire somebody to cut your lawn. You get them $200 to cut your lawn. Got a pretty big lawn. The guys come out and they're cutting and chopping and they're mowing, but they got like this rinky-dink $5 lawnmower that doesn't even have any power to it, one of them old school mowers. The shears they got is rusted. They're thirsty. They ain't had water all day because there's no water in the facility they're at. And you say, hold on. And you start to look, man, this is not working. You're not doing a good job. And the worker says, hold on, we're getting rusty this and we're getting that. And you know, what do you expect us to do? Now, where's our $200? I get that you were working hard and I get you were put under extreme circumstances, but I'm not paying you for that. That's not acceptable. And as a representative of this company, what your ass better do is go back to the bosses and say, look, I'm just letting you know, this ain't gonna work anymore. So not only are we not gonna be able to pay our bills, but you ain't gonna be able to satisfy the investors. I think you need to make a change. And if that ain't working, if they ain't listening, hell, quit. Go work for Larian. Larian probably got offers out of the wazoo coming up. You know what I'm saying? But no, in reality, that you're not to accept the status quo. Yet it is a problem. We completely understand. Hopefully you understand that it's not our fault. We want to do better. We want a better lawnmower. We want unrusted shears. But this is what they're giving us. So maybe what you can do is we can go back and talk to our bosses and you can let them know, and that'll help us to tell them that you're not giving this $200 unless we get better materials. I am going to read this part of this filth. So here's the thesis of what this disgusting Sheffield person had to say. He says, there was an opportunity with the video like this to give player context for why games release the way that they do, but instead it was designed to incite anger directed at a few devs. This was certainly accomplished as Xavier is getting harassed relentlessly, but is this really the kind of anger you want? Is this the tactic you wanted? No, this was your rebuttal was the opportunity to add context to the complexities for the small percentage of people even interested in this conversation that doesn't already know, because the majority of gamers already know the complexities. We talk about it every day, damn it. Where the hell are you? Secondly, but this was an opportunity for you not only to add some insight, because you didn't add any, but B, to bring it all home and give us that perfect, well-rounded balance of the dev side and the gamer side. You didn't do it. Because the overarching theme is it's not acceptable. And better needs to be done. I get that you're getting rusted shears and a piss poor lawnmower, but I'm not paying for that lawn. And that's missing from your article. What your article is a dog pile of ish. Talking about a dog pile. This article is a bunch of nothingism. It's a bunch of wordy nothingism. And I'm going to be on. I'm going to go on the record and say I was disappointed in seeing the people that I normally think are of the higher echelon in thinking in this realm actually celebrating this trash. I'm all for the game developers. I'm against crunch and all that stuff. But Larian is showing you a blueprint. That's not going to happen overnight, but a blueprint nonetheless. You can highlight the complexities by also in union with gamers saying that there has to be a change. That's the overarching theme. Don't talk about what a journalist could have done and you did far less. Disgusting. I can't stand mind states like that. I just can't stand them. All right. Enough with my outrage. Let's film this. Let's record this. So let's turn that off. I'm pissed, man. This has got me more like with Xbox is disappointment, and it's more or less like I've been telling y'all. Watch this, y'all. Just watch it. Be careful. Don't fall for these marketing gimmicks. That's what fuels my Xbox content. And my PlayStation content too, where they fall short. I'm legit angry about this. This is anywho. Let's get ready to make let's get ready to make a video. All right. And let's start at 3, 2, 1. What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy, MM2K of PNTS Network and Hard Knock Digital Culture, back again with another episode of The Capsule. This is where we talk and take a snippet of the latest and greatest video game topics, talk to you about it, and hopes to induce your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have a special video for you today that's really got me riled up. And that is, the title of today's video is Elevating Game Development Standards, the Case for Baldur's Gate 3. But before we get into all this, do us a huge favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and rock those bells for notifications, please, so you know when we're dropping these doses. So first and foremost, I want to say hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be diving into a fascinating topic that's really been buzzing around the gaming community recently. We'll be discussing the impact of Baldur's Gate 3, a game that has ignited discussions about the standards we should expect from game developers. And in this video, we'll explore why gamers are clamoring for more innovation in the AAA game industry, why games like Baldur's Gate 3 are so exciting, and why some of the arguments against it might not hold water. So in order to do all that, we're going to break this into several sections because I got a lot to say. Let's start with section 1. Dismay with lack of innovation. Look, it's no secret that over the past decade, many gamers have grown increasingly disappointed with the lack of innovation in AAA games. We've witnessed franchises churn out sequels that feel more like iterations rather than groundbreaking experiences. The thirst for new immersive worlds have left many of us yearning for more. Section 2. The influence of big publishers and lack of innovation in all this. This stagnation can be attributed in huge part, to the influence of big publishers like EA, Take-Two, Activision, and the sorts. These publishers have often favored a cookie-cutter approach, prioritizing profit over pushing the boundaries of creativity. The industry has witnessed microtransactions, incomplete launches, and repetitive gameplay mechanics becoming the norm. Section 3. Baldur's Gate 3's impact and excitement. Enter Baldur's Gate 3, a game that has been a breath of fresh air for the gaming community with its deep storytelling, innovative mechanics, and feature-complete launch. Baldur's Gate 3 has shown what's possible when a passionate studio like Legarie Studios sets its sights on revolutionizing the RPG genre. Its Metacritic score of 97 and a record-breaking player count on Steam speaks volumes about its impact. Section 4. Destin's point of view in developer angst. Who am I talking about? Well, Destin Legarie's perspective, Destin Legarie of IGN that is, on the matter resonates with many gamers. He put out a video that questions why some developers are quick to defend the status quo rather than embracing the opportunity to learn from games like Baldur's Gate 3. He points out instances where players have faced issues with games like Destiny 2 and Diablo 4, and yet microtransactions continue to thrive. Section 5. Brandon Sheffield's rebuttal. On the other hand, on the other side of the debate, Brandon Sheffield has critiqued Destin's viewpoint. Now, Brandon is from Necrosoft. He claims he's a former journalist. I don't question that. I don't debate that. But he's somewhat of a known name within the gaming space. He put out an article which highlights the complexities of game development in rebuttal to Destin's point, particularly in the realm of budget constraints and external pressures from shareholders. While he acknowledges the excitement around Baldur's Gate 3, he emphasizes the need to understand the broader picture as far as the complexities of game development. Section 6. Reinforcing Destin's point of view. Nevertheless, I stand with Destin's perspective, and here's why. Baldur's Gate 3's success showcases that gamers are hungry for innovation, storytelling, and well-polished launches. Now, while some may argue that Legarie Studio has a long development cycle, the key takeaway is that the innovation thrives when developers prioritize quality over rushing to meet deadlines. So instead of lauding and trying to just solely rebut why you can't do something, even if you can't do it tomorrow, I feel that Legarie has set a gold standard that should be looked at across the board. And look, publishers like making money. So if consumers start standing up and saying, look, we're not going to take it, publishers may take heed. And that's where we need our developer friends to be part of that conversation and say, you know what? This may be a better approach and a better support mechanism than the status quo. So therefore, all that takes us to the conclusion. So there you have it, a detailed exploration of the contrasting viewpoints surrounding Baldur's Gate 3's impact on the gaming industry. While the debate rages on, one thing is certain. Gamers have every right to expect more from developers. As the industry evolves, we can only hope that more studios take cues from games like Baldur's Gate 3 and rise to the challenge of setting higher standards. Thank you for joining me for this thought-provoking journey. I encourage you all to share your thoughts in the comment section below, as I said earlier, and keep the conversation going. And as always, Stay tuned for more insightful discussions right here on our channel. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful gaming day. Peace. And there you have it, people. I felt good doing that. I feel like that was probably one of our better capsules because I was angry. I work better when I'm angry. Man, crazy stuff. Here's my thoughts on all this. Look, over the years, y'all, AAA game developers have been facing the criticism for the lack of innovation and reliance on repetitive gameplay. But Baldur's Gate 3 does provide a shift in that. Baldur's Gate 3 has caught their attention because a lot of people are afraid of change. And I really do think what's going on is that these new breed of developers that have been left by their former mentors, the people that did make the great games of the 360 era and so forth, who said, we're not going to take it. I guess they don't know which way to go. So they just look at the power structure and they accept it. Look, gamers have expressed their frustration over the past decade with this lack of innovation in AAA titles, and rightfully so. These titles are getting released by EA and Take-Two and all these other. It's too cookie cutter. And the novelty of the lack of innovation has led gamers to yearn for more. You hear the discussions all the time. Gaming just isn't as good as it used to. All this money being poured into it, and it's not as impactful. And you ain't got to believe me. Again, look at this tweet. Again, for the sake of not trying to make this an Xbox or PlayStation thing, this is not. This is one where I think both gamer bases can unify. Look, I'm not saying these aren't potent attributions to your lineup. Starfield could be blockbuster. Forza, Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush critically acclaimed. Stalker 2 with a lot of potential. But look at what we used to get. Halo 3, BioShock, Mass Effect all in 1 year. But then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 other games that can move the needle as well. Maybe not as much as those 3 games, but it can move the needle as well. I mean, you give me BioShock, Mass Effect, and Halo 3, something on that level in 1 year alone. That's it. That's destroying the market. To me, that's bigger than a God of War and a Spider-Man launching in the same year to me. But again, look, this is the norm. We're getting so much less. And gamers are frustrated. They talk about it all the time. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the complexities of devs and what they go through from these AAA publishers. I don't have a problem with that being underscored here when we're having this discussion. But this shouldn't be a discussion where we're talking past each other. And I'll be honest with you. The devs started it. I hate to sound child, but the devs started it. You are talking past the game, and when you sit there and say, don't expect that from me. It is. And before you can even celebrate it. Oh, and you douse the party before it can even be celebrated. What should be happening here is you say, we celebrate this. We see the potential here in the new standards this gets set, but you got to understand, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. The people that write the checks, they are hell-bent on doing XYZ way. So maybe in unison together with us bringing it up and then you voting with your wallet, that we can make some change here, because this would, the way Larian does it, I would assume those guys seem so happy at Larian Studios. They're so stress free. I mean, that's how they appear. I know they're stressed because you never know how your game is going to land, but they seem so stress free. That seems like the developers would rather work under those conditions than the ones that they're working under today. And they can have a product that they can be proud of thereafter. We ain't got to accept this. That article from the Sheffield guy, that's defeatism. And it's repulsive in its nature, because it's not just defeatism. It's public. It's publisher hogwash. Something I would expect from a publisher. So, with that said, kudos to Destin. Destin said he's going to do a part 2. So, he felt like there's some parts to where he could have done better. And I don't think so. I think he could clarify more that, hey, look, for the sake of the bozos that try to make it seem like that gamers aren't aware and don't know what's going on, fine. Look, we understand the complexities the developers are going through. And what we're saying in response is that developers, they have their hands tied. But the long version of this is that it's not acceptable. Again, whether your boss is giving you rusty shears or not, I'm not paying you $200 for that job. It's the output, regardless of how you slice it, the output has to change. And if you're not to blame, kudos. We get it. We'll work with you. We'll go to the publisher and say, no, there should be better conditions. And Larry is showing you those better conditions, so get with it. Stop trying to sell us early access at the tail end. Sell it at the beginning. Follow their model. You might see more success. And there you have it. We'll finish off with the remaining comments and then I'm out. Cold Blood says, Internet of Games, my problem is Larian is being praised for being so consumer friendly, but nobody brings up how they handled consoles. I don't know what you mean. Look, they got it. Look, they are being consumer friendly. You had an look, Cold Blood. Look, I gotta keep it real. I gotta keep it jiggy with you, bro. I gotta keep it jiggy with you. You had an opportunity to play Baldur's Gate if you really wanted to. I know it really isn't your cup of tea all like that, but you may have changed your mind or whatever. But I know earlier on it wasn't your cup of tea, so you chose not to. And even if it was available in early access on PlayStation, you probably wouldn't have chosen to, and that's fine. I'm just saying hypothetically. Let's just say if you really wanted to play Baldur's Gate, you could have played it. To secure money, there has to be an exclusive deal. And to secure money in order for this exclusive deal, they happen to go to Google. And you know what? In them going to Google, that essentially made it the easiest for everybody to play Baldur's Gate. Why? Because you could have played it through your damn web browser. Who doesn't have access to a web browser? You could have played it through your web browser. Y'all just chose not to because y'all chose to fall for the rhetoric that was being hand-fed to y'all by the goofs out there in idiot land. That's a you problem. So it's not about how they handle console. They went with Stadia. Because look, if I don't have the money to buy, if I'm an Xbox gamer and I don't have the money to buy a PlayStation 5 or even to build up my PC, I'm ass out on Baldur's Gate. If I'm a PlayStation gamer and I don't have the money to build my PC or buy an Xbox, I'm ass out on Baldur's Gate if it becomes exclusive to Xbox. My prior point I was trying to say is if they made the early access exclusive to PlayStation, I'm ass out because it's a PlayStation exclusive, and I'd have to buy the console in order to get it. But if you make it exclusive to Stadia, guess what? It's free 99, meaning as long as you got a browser, you can play the damn thing. Why not play it? That was y'all problem. Y'all fell for the rhetoric. That was really the most accessible point for everybody, so they wouldn't have to break the bank in order to play the game. So if y'all really wanted to play, y'all could have played. Y'all just chose not to. Internet of Games says the gamer studio worker are the same persons. The journalists and the studio workers are too, but they have ideas above their stations. 100 million gamers have been missed to one extent or another this generation. He said, or 100 billion rather. Devs are afraid also, but Hollywood took to the streets, and devs will do one day too. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, IOG. Thank you. That you hit it right on the nail. That's the problem. They're afraid to speak up, but they want to say something. Because they know what the problem is. The problem is their bosses. The problem is the publisher. It's their bosses. They're not going to speak up against them, so they're going to come and attack the consumer or piss on our cornflakes. Man, get your asses out of here, please. Destin was right on target. And for was it the Sheffield guy? For him to come like gamers don't know what's going on, man, stop it. Where have you been? You can't be this dumb. And I don't think you are. You're just a Brandon Sheffield, just a jackass about the situation. He says the layoffs are coming and they are coming fast. I totally agree. I totally agree. But we can work with the devs in unison. We can cause reputational risk to these publishers by hitting social media. They do it. People do it to Xbox and PlayStation every day. Xbox is making decisions based upon the cluttering of stuff that's happening on social media. PlayStation is doing stuff because the cluttering, more so Xbox and PlayStation, but still they're both affected. You don't think these publishers that are worth less, it would be riskier for them? You don't think they would be impacted? Absolutely they would be. Y'all got to do something to say something. And we'll work with the devs, but we can't talk past each other. And the devs started talking past us first on this. And Brandon Sheffield did a horrible job. He gaslit it even more. It's horrible job. In trying to not only misinterpret the thesis that Destin was hitting at, but trying to downplay what Larry and Dad and make it, what they did was this. No, it isn't. Stop being so damn dishonest and disgusting. That's it from your boy, y'all. I gotta go get something to eat. I appreciate all of y'all. Until next time, have a wonderful gaming day. Thank y'all all for y'all support. And that video should be out tomorrow. If you're interested, check it out on YouTube. If you're watching this VOD on YouTube, it's already out. Check it out. It's gonna be called what are we gonna call this again? As long as the SEO works with it, elevating game development standards, the case for Baldur's Gate 3. Until next time, have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.